Evening and welcome to our webinar event where we will explore how your contributions benefit women, children, and youth in our community and beyond. I am Donna Mosby, Holston Conference President, and I welcome you tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our host, Susan Daffron, who is serving as Holston Conference Education and Interpretation Coordinator.
Good evening, everyone. We are delighted you're with us today. And if you will take a moment in the chat to introduce yourself, tell us your name and your district. If you are outside of Holston, tell us your conference. And before I get started, I am just delighted to share with you today one of the most amazing people that I have ever met in my life, and her name is Shannon Priddy. She will be our host, or well, she will be our guest today, and she will be telling us all about mission giving. And I want to give you just a brief bio of Shannon. Um, and like a lot of you, it was at her mother's invitation that Shannon became involved in United Women in Faith through a transformative education, which is now called Mission U. The opportunities she has been afforded through United Women in Faith opened her eyes to the injustice everywhere and opened her heart to love and action. Joining her first circle as a young 30-something-year-old woman to president of the board of directors and now serving her faith as a staff member, United Women in Faith builds leaders for today and tomorrow. Matching passions and resources, Shannon's work at United Women in Faith is an expression of God at work in the world. She is an active member of North United Methodist Church in Indianapolis and a homeowner in a neighborhood of Indianapolis called Little Flower on the east side of the city. She is an active with the Indiana Conference of United Methodist Church, serving on the Board of Trustees as conference lay leader. Shannon is thankful to be a delegate to the General Conference from Indiana and to see our church grow and succeed in the transformation of the world. Growth and possibilities are present to the church and United Women in Faith, and it's our turn to make it happen. And with that kind of an attitude, what a night we're going to have. So welcome, Shannon. Thank you for being with us. And I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Susan and Donna. Thank you so much for this invitation. One, thank you, Holston Conference. And two, thank you, Southeast jurisdiction. For those of you outside of the Holston Conference, welcome. I am so excited to share with you my passion, which is mission giving, which is United Women in Faith. So thank you for all that you do. I am going to share my screen here in a minute to kind of give you a layout of things that are going to come up over the next, I'm going to say 45 minutes to an hour. And we're going to talk about mission giving. We're going to talk about the pledge. We're going to talk about where the money goes. And at any point, please feel free to stop me with a question in the chat or a question in the Q&A. One thing to remember, if you put a question in the Q&A, to hit return so that it does show up to us as the presenters. I've asked Susan and Donna to help me monitor the chat. So if we need to stop in the middle of whatever slide we're on, we can address any questions. I was going to put this in the chat or in the context of the presentation, but I'm going to say it here too. I see that, you know, there's women from all over, especially Holston Conference, but other conferences as well. As we go through this presentation, as we go through this education, think about your position. If you are a circle member, a local unit member, where do you see your place in mission giving? If you're a treasurer, what is your responsibility when it comes to the pledge and mission giving? If you're membership nurture and outreach, or if you are the vice president and you're in charge of programs. So as we go through this presentation, you know, really think about where your role is. Because although we designate education and interpretation as the quote unquote fundraiser, educating about where the money goes, educating the community outward of where the money goes, it's also our job throughout the entire leadership committee, the leadership of the conference or the district or the local unit, to educate on where the money goes. So that is really one of the things to think about. All right, so let's get started. I've seen people showing up from Mountain District and Scenic South District. Y'all have the best names for your districts. Florida Conference, Linda, thank you for being here. Three Rivers District, and again, Smoky Mountain District. So these are beautiful places. I've been fortunate to drive through much of Southeast jurisdiction and the Holston Conference. So it's great to see you all here today. And now I'll share my screen and get this presentation started. There we go. All right, we are here to talk about mission giving, inspire, influence, and impact. And those three words, inspire, influence, and impact, should not be a surprise. Those should be words that you hear throughout what United Women in Faith is up to these days, from the national level and spreading it out into everyone else. So, so please know that your work that has always been United Women in Faith will inspire, it does influence, and we're going to talk about the impact that your giving makes in the world today. Again, mission giving, inspire, influence, and impact. Mission giving is undesignated, unrestricted, annual mission giving that makes United Women in Faith's mission possible across the United States and around the world. We don't always talk about it enough, and I'm going to talk about it a lot, but the pledge to mission, that commitment that each individual woman makes at the local grassroots level, is the amount that a woman gives to her local unit. It is the most intimate gift that she can give in her commitment to the community of women whose purpose is to know God. It's the most intimate gift that she can give to other women around the world. And when we think about our impact locally, we as United Women in Faith, who may know the United Methodist Church, who grew up knowing that connection, and we are still part of that connection, that gift reaches around the world. And we're going to share the impact of each woman's gift. And part of what my goal as a staff person, as a fundraiser, as a United Woman in Faith, myself, is to share the impact of what your giving really does. We talk about it as a personal gift. We talk about it as our opportunity for putting our faith into action. But we don't talk about where that action actually leads to. So today, we're going to do that. And know that I am working to equip your E&I educators, your education and interpretation leaders, but I'm also working to educate other leaders to be able to share the impact of each woman's gift. Oh, I went backwards. So because we are a spiritual, Christian, faithful women's organization, there is a biblical background for giving. It is not something that is uncommon for us. It is an expression of God's grace among us. We are taught to love the poor, hear the cries of the oppressed, protect the victim, and welcome the stranger. And of course, all of our resources both natural and financial, are gifts from God. So it is our right and it is our gift back to God to give, to help create the kingdom here on earth. So how do we solicit unrestricted funds on behalf of United Women in Faith? We talk about the mission giving. We talk about the 5 channels of giving. The pledge to mission, each woman's individual gift to the work of United Women in Faith, each local unit's gift to the work of United Women in Faith, each district's gift, each conference's gift. And we're about to go into jurisdiction season, each jurisdiction's gift to making mission happen. The World Thank Offering. We should already have our boxes and our banks ready to go. And we think about whatever we've decided for the year to be our gift. Is it every time I see a cat? Every time I put on a new pair of shoes? Is it based on the number of shoes I have? That World Thank Offering starts today. It's making a gift in honor or memory of someone that we know or have lost. And her or his purpose on earth was to make the world a better place. That can be a gift in honor or in memory. Special mission recognition. We recognize those who help us fundraise. We recognize those around the church who help us do the things that we do. We recognize those around the community who make a difference and add to the work that we do. And then our gift to mission, our gift that makes mission happen. And this is another way to see all of how United Women in Faith, unrestricted giving, makes mission happen. So where does the money go? United Women in Faith is a service and advocacy organization structured and based on a community of women whose purpose is to know God and to see and call out injustice in the world. So as we've done in the current quadrennium, we will do in the next quadrennium, we will look at climate justice and we will look at racial justice and we will focus on that advocacy because we know that that is where we have a voice and we can change the world through that advocacy. So our money goes to that. And this is where, again, I invite you all to think about your office. If you hold an office, if you are a member on a local level, if you're a district officer, or if you are a returning member who is participating in this, think about what your voice will say to where the money goes in relation to what you do for the conference, for the district, or for your local unit or your local group. So the money goes to education and leadership development. It goes to leadership development days. It goes to Mission U. And I, as someone who understands and believes that Mission U is a gateway to United Women in Faith, I am proud to support it through my pledge. I am proud to support Mission U through my pledge. We learned today in our Voices from the Field, and it'll be on YouTube shortly, that scholarships to students in the United States and around the world are paid for in part by your pledge, by your gifts to mission. We are a spiritual group. We are a community of women whose purpose is to know God, and we want to nurture that. So we're going to put our money into the daily prayer guide and the program book so that you have resources to build fellowship and build community in your own locations. We're going to put together Bible studies. We're going to put together soul care events or spiritual retreats. And of course, we have Faith Talks, our podcast that talks about faith in the United States and faith around the world and what it means to be a faithful woman. Our national mission institutions. We have a network of national mission institutions that have been part of our organization for longer than we were United Methodist Women and now United Women in Faith, that we support. And we provide grants to them for residential treatment centers and women's residencies within, places that they need to go. Where the money goes, international mission. We are a world organization. We participate in the world, not only on the community level that we are part of, but on the world level that we are connected to. And so we enhance the capacities of local and regional women leaders and economic development programs for women and youth around the world, countries in Africa, the Philippines, parts of Europe. We are a global connection. And one of the impacts that we can make with our women, one of the impacts we can share with our women, especially in Rocky Top, Smoky Mountain, district, or in, parts of Florida, who may not know that they are connected to international women around the world, because we support regional missionaries and grassroots partners in programs that empower women around the world. And that's what makes us different from other organizations. That's what connects us to the global world of women who are making a difference, who are raising leaders, who are building and educating leaders. And that's an impactful statement to know where the money goes. We are back to the Deaconess and Home Missioner Office. It is part of United Women in Faith. It is an ordained order of the United Methodist Church, but it is under the office of United Women in Faith, because we are a laity women's organization. And so we recognize and we promote male and female laity leaders who have asked for or discerned a calling for a ministry background to support their secular work. And so that is the Office of Deaconess and Home Missioner, and that order of the United Methodist Church sits under our purview. And it is our opportunity, our mission giving, that gives that education to those deaconess and home missioners to then go into the secular world with a ministry of love, justice, and service. And that's pretty powerful. The money that you pledge, the money that is part of mission giving, the money that you fundraise and send up through the local unit to the district unit, to the conference, to the national organization, it pays for board and staff development. It does. It pays for accounting and financial services so that we can process checks, so that we can keep accounts balanced, and so that we can have good principles of accounting. It also provides funding for grants and scholarship administration so that we can give scholarships to young women in Zimbabwe or young women in Seoul, Korea. It does afford us that. It affords us a website. As we move into this digital age, some of the money of your pledge helps us reach more people, and reach more women because of our information technology, because of our website. So that is part of our giving. I'm going to pause for a quick second and see if there are any questions. And please, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Feel free. I've given you a lot of information about where the money goes. And I encourage each leader, and showing up today to this webinar makes you a leader. So I encourage you to think about and promote where the money goes. You know, whether you are a, no matter your title or lack of title, you are a local leader, and it is important that you share where the money goes. So one thing as we move, and again, I'm going to encourage conversation in the chat, so please feel free to put things in the chat if you have questions. What percentage of mission giving is used for overhead? Yes, I can. So there's two numbers actually. And I'm gonna look up something really quick. I'm gonna actually stop my share so I can look something up on my computer really quick so I can give you the most up-to-date number. But I will say that we, as far as just administrative, we sit around 14%, which puts us at a lower number than places like Goodwill, places like American Heart Association, places like the Red Cross. So just be aware that administratively, just for that administrative jobs like mine, we do sit at a lower number than one would think. The other number includes, and I'm gonna check for it right here. The other number includes our administration of Brooks Howell Home in Asheville, North Carolina, and the CCUN, the Church Center for the United Nations. So it is a bigger percentage because we own and operate those two buildings. Well, yeah, we'll call them buildings. And I'm trying to get you that exact number. 30%, less than 30%, because of those two buildings. But 46% of United Women in Faith's budget is supported directly by mission giving. So I hope that answered your question. Our overhead, quote unquote overhead, sits at about 14%. When we add in Brooks Howell Home and the CCUN building, mission giving is about, or part of the budget sits at about 30%. But overall, the whole budget, 46% of mission giving pays for that budget. Okay, that's a great question. Please don't hesitate to ask more, and I will share my screen again. And we will continue on because we're going to talk about how to raise funds, which is not always the easiest, but with a dedicated commitment, it doesn't have to be hard. So let me try this again. Here we go. Okay. So I always say, when it comes to raising funds, do what you're passionate about. And I tell this story and I share this story often because I think it's important. I belong to a United Methodist Church. We have a local unit. Our local unit has two circles. One, I would say the average age is 60, and the other, the average age is 80. So the predominant work is done, or the predominant fundraising historically was done by the younger circle. At the time that I joined this local unit, we had a woman in our circle who loved to cook large quantities. She loved to cook food in general, and so she would cook food for Ronald McDonald House. She would cook food for any gathering that was called upon. And so we came up with a fundraiser to cook large quantities of food after church one Sunday each quarter. And we would invite the church to pay a small fee and eat lunch together and build community. What a great opportunity. And Julie was fantastic because she loved to cook. And so she was always in charge of the menu. We were her guinea pigs. She would try out new things. It was her passion. Well, Julie, unfortunately, had to move because of job change. And none of us were super passionate about food the way that Julie was. So we had to come up with a new fundraiser. And we eventually did. We make soups that are in a jar and they sell amazingly well for our local unit. And we do fine. But I bring up my story about Julie and the fundraising because Julie was passionate about food and it showed. She loved it. And we supported her and she kind of drove that fundraiser. And we made our pledge each year. We had money to give locally. We had money to give to the national organization. And it worked beautifully until it didn't work. So do what you're passionate about. And if passions change, your fundraisers can change. So I say that because I think that it's fair to say. Okay. I just saw a new person in the chat. So welcome to someone who just joined us. I'm going to mention a few fundraisers that are pretty common across the connection. These are not going deep dive into what you're passionate about. We can talk about that in a Q&A session at the end, and how to really make your passions a fundraiser. But first we'll start with some general fundraisers that we can talk about how to manipulate and change these to make them appropriate on a smaller scale as well. So I'll talk about them here, but then we can talk about them in a how to make them work for you as well. So we have Move to Mission. In Move for Mission, in years past, we've designated its fundraising. We decided not to do that anymore and go back to its original purpose, which was Move for Mission Giving. So it's things like letting your heart race for United Women in Faith. But sometimes your heart races because you're rocking in a chair. So get sponsors per mile or per minute that you are rocking in a rocking chair or that you are walking together. Missouri Conference sells t-shirts, and then at their annual conference, they do an organized walk together. The money raising comes really from selling the t-shirts, but it is now an expectation at the annual conference that the group that the laity and the clergy attending annual conference will do an organized walk, all while wearing the t-shirts. And people get really excited about the new and this year's t-shirt that United Women in Faith is creating. The candle burn is something I am becoming more and more familiar with. You share the love or remember the love per minute. So it's donations per minute or how many minutes you fundraise for the year. This is a number that comes based on the mission giving to the national organization. We then decide, we figure out how much came in from mission giving, and then we do it based on how many for an hour, how many for a minute, how many for, each time. And this year the number is $11.23. I have fallen back in love with the pledge service, and I want more people to fall in love with the pledge service. And I say this because the pledge service is the one service that we promote throughout the year that every woman who is a United Woman in Faith participates in. So whether you're in Maine or Montana, you're doing the same thing. And so that connection is evident. It's there to connect us. And it's why we are a community of women. And it is your commitment to be part of that sisterhood connection. I was at a local unit recently talking about fundraising, and they said, oh, well, half of our unit couldn't be there at our initial pledge service. And I said, well, then hold another one. So don't be afraid to do more than one if not everybody can attend. And do not be afraid to do it mid-year as a reminder. That is always an option. Is there a particular time or season to do the pledge service? So I can speak to what I know and how it's been in practice in my tenure. And I hope treasurers will thank me for this, because it comes before budget season, because treasurers need to know how much money to play around with for the budget. So if you set your budget in August or September, you need to have the pledge season or the pledge ceremony done, or pledge service done before that, so that treasurers can create a budget. If you do your pledge service in January, then your treasurers can create a budget in February. So I say that there's no set time. It's really dependent on when your conference or district or local unit requires your budgets. Your treasurers will thank you because it will give them a realistic dollar amount to set a budget. And I encourage you to think about that. You know, there's a plan to that. You want your treasurers to have a realistic picture of the financial portrait that's being created by the pledge service. And so that will play a role in when you set your pledge service. And the reason I say, you know, have it again mid-year, and maybe it's a version of the pledge service, but the treasurer may send out reminders of individuals of their pledge, but that's very transactional. And doing a reminder of the pledge service will make it more meaningful and impactful. So we tend to give more when we feel it in our heart, when we feel that heartstring being pulled or that connection. And so connecting women with their giving to each other and seeing that impact around the world can make a difference in what someone pledges, and then reminding them, you know, that they are connected to women around the world. And then take an offering. If you are if you are doing a program, or you are doing a program on something, by all means, take an offering to support that mission, to support that opportunity. You know, you can designate some of your giving. It will go outside of your pledge, but you can designate your giving. So if you do a program on the reading program and you want an offering to go directly to the reading program, there's nothing wrong with that. It will complement your pledge. It will complement your gift to the national organization, to the work that we as United Women in Faith do. I say that in to add, you will also see United Women in Faith on the national offering more opportunities for giving. And I encourage you to think about that. In a recent education and interpretation officer training, we talked about what would it look like if on the local level, and I'm strictly talking for the local level, if local women had a kind of fact sheet about what the offerings were, what they were going to be, what offering opportunities there were throughout the year, then they could make their personal budget to know what they want their pledge to be, to know what they want their gift and mission to be, what they want their special mission recognition giving to be. And they could plan out a little better. So thinking about when you're taking an offering and saying this will complement the pledge or this will go to your pledge is an opportunity to share specific opportunities that impact giving. And then, of course, silent auctions, selling something that you've created, never underestimating the amount of time and heart that homemade quilts and baskets and myriad of other things that people create, you know, sweaters that are knitted or doilies that are knitted or washcloths that are knitted, you know, those are time commitments and those should be priced accordingly. And you can make some serious silent auctions, sales in general, and your sales can go to mission giving. Okay, what we do not fund. We do not fund projects if they do not benefit women, children, or youth. We do not fund projects if they do not comply with the United Methodist Church social principles. And we do not fund projects if they are administered by discriminatory organizations. An example of a discriminatory organization would be one that excluded somebody because of their race, creed, or color. It's the simplest way to put that. And so we do have targeted giving. We do have opportunities to give above and beyond the pledge, or above and beyond your local unit giving, or above and beyond your conference giving. An example of that, a standard example of that, has become the Legacy Endowment Fund. The Legacy Endowment Fund is additional giving outside of your pledge, or outside of your conference's pledge, or outside of your personal pledge. And we have created it on purpose. It is not supposed to take away from the pledge, but to add an opportunity for giving. The rest of this list is that same opportunity. When you give your pledge, when you give mission giving, you are giving undesignated dollars. If you choose to give a targeted gift or a designated gift, it would be in addition to your pledge. So that might be clear as mud. And please, if you have questions on the difference, please don't hesitate to ask. Let me know. And that is where we are. Is it okay? So we've answered the questions that are in the chat. And now I'm going to really encourage conversation in the chat. because this is really an opportunity to talk about fundraising. Could you please share the new SMR pin? I can share about the new SMR pin. I do not have a picture of it yet. I don't think it's because it's on lockdown or a secret. I just can't get a photo of it. Okay, so I will answer these questions too. So there is a new special mission recognition pin. It is in the shape of our new logo. It is my understanding that you can still order the older ones, and they are still available. The 150 special mission recognition is still available as well. And I encourage that one because it does go to the Legacy Fund. The other special mission recognition pins all go to mission giving and to the unrestricted funding of the organization. So Donna, your question, what is supplemental giving? And supplemental giving could be considered the same as targeted or designated giving. So you have the pledge, which is your personal undesignated gift to the organization to do the work of the organization. Supplemental giving is then anything that you choose to give to above and beyond that. An example of supplemental giving or targeted giving is the Legacy Endowment Fund. And those are gifts that would be designated or supplemental gifts, additional gifts to your undesignated, unrestricted pledge that are given in addition. So you've created your pledge. You've decided that this is the amount you want to give. And then Emily creates, shows an amazing movie on the school to prison pipeline, and it tugs at your heart and you want to give an additional gift. That is supplemental giving. And it is appreciated, it is honored, and it is, when given in addition to your pledge, it lets your pledge do additional work. So when you think about your pledge doing multiple tasks, because it can fit into any place that's needed, a supplemental gift will let your pledge go farther. I know there are questions out there, so please continue to ask them. And when you think about fundraising on the local level, I'm going to dive into this a little bit, and I expect questions of how can we make how can we make Move for Mission work for us? So I'm going to try and address some of those things. So how can you make Move for Mission work for you? Well, the goal of Move for Mission is to move. So is it a dance-a-thon? Is it just a dance party at your annual meeting, at your annual celebration, and it takes $5 to be a part of it? That's a Move for Mission because you're dancing and you're moving. Is it a rockathon where you're sitting in a rocking chair and you have pledges that are, I'm going to rock for 10 minutes. And so I'm going to take, a minute. I want someone to sponsor me 5 cents a minute, and I'm going to rock for however long till my bottom hurts. Is it a knitting festival? I've been hearing about one of our staff women who is a crocheter and a knitter, And she said, well, I'm going to knit for Move for Mission. And she has support that it's not by item, it's by inch or foot. I'm not sure which, because she does blankets, but she asks for pledges for how many inches or feet, I'm not sure which, she's going to knit in a certain amount of time. So she'll say, in a week, I'm going to knit 3 blankets, and however many feet that is, she'll get pledges for that. So, and that's the type of movement she can do because of where she is in her life. So when we talk about Move for Mission, please think about it in movement that works for you. And just as I believe that fundraising is independent, is particular to what you care about and what you like to produce, movement is the same way. So when you think of Move for Mission, please feel free to think of what moves you. Do we have ideas for how you can use the prayer guide to promote mission giving? Yes, because the prayer guide has these amazing connections within it. And I will share a story. So I was fortunate to get to travel to Seoul, Korea with the church, but also with United Women in Faith. And I got to go to Scranton Leadership School and work with some of the women that were at an event there. And one of the women came up to me and she said, when I was a kid, we had a missionary from the United States. Can you help me find her? And my mom was traveling with me, carries the prayer guide with her all the time. And so we went to the prayer guide and we looked her up, and we found the missionary that she was looking for, and we got them back in touch with each other. This is a retired missionary. Now, we also have current missionaries. We also have current staff people. So when you think about this global world that we live in, we now have computers and internet and Zoom. So I can be in Indiana and be on a conference with women in Tennessee and Florida, and the Holston conference overall, via Zoom. You can do the same thing with men and women in the prayer guide to show the impact of your mission giving around the world. So please utilize the information in the prayer guide. If there's a prayer or a poem or an article that resonates with you, reach out to the person who wrote it and invite them to a local unit meeting, to a district meeting. They may have to come via Zoom, but they can come and share the impact of what their work gets to do, or what they get to do in their work because of mission giving. It's exactly what we did on Voices from the Field today. We've done it with our community gatherings. We've done it with our national mission institutions. We invite men and women from around the globe. And I say men because at the time, they were children once upon a time, and we supported them as children who are now adults. But we have home missioners who are male. But we've invited them to specific events to share their impact with whomever shows up, because that is where the money goes. That is who benefits from your mission giving. So with as small as our world can be, for as big as our world is, I encourage you to, anytime something strikes a passion within you, reach out to that author, that child, that adult, whatever it is, whomever it is, and you probably will get them into a Zoom meeting to share the impact of your giving in their work. Because people like to thank those who have given them the opportunity to do their job. So when we have National Mission Institution leaders come talk to us, they love to get to say thank you because they know the value of the connection they have with United Women in Faith. So this is no longer a time to be timid. This is no longer a time to be shy, to think, oh, well, they're too busy. No one is ever too busy to say thank you, to make that connection of how they got the money to do their job or to go to school. In November or December, I can't remember what month it was, Pravina Balasandra, who's also a staff woman at United Women in Faith, and I came up with this crazy idea of saying thank you to women who have fulfilled their pledge, met their pledge, even made a pledge at the community gathering that we host on the last Thursday of each month on our digital platform to exemplify and to model the program book. And so between the two of us, we reached out to 5 different beneficiaries of United Women in Faith and just on a lark said, hey, could you get online with us on this date at this time and just say thank you? And they all said yes. And they all jumped at the opportunity to connect with United Women in Faith women who are giving their hard-earned money, their hard-earned cash through their pledge, through their mission giving, through their dollars at the conference level, at the local level, and at the district level, so that these women could say thank you. So the prayer guide is one of your best windows to impact, to windows to the world, to invite members in to talk about their impact, the impact of your giving. Our missionaries, we have 7 international missionaries, and depending on time zones, a lot of them will stay up late just to come to a local unit meeting and say, this is the kind of work I get to do because of your mission giving. I can't think of a staff member that wouldn't drop everything they were doing, maybe depending on kids and what time kids' bedtimes are, but to come to a local meeting and share the impact of your giving in the work that we get to do because you give to United Women in Faith. And again, and I shared this recently with our local, or with a training for education and interpretation coordinators. There's a reason that there's contact information in the prayer guide, on the website, on the connections that we make. It's because we want you to use them. You don't have to ask for permission from anyone. You do not have to wait for someone to say it's okay. You are empowered to make those connections. Have you ever heard of conferences challenging each other in a mission giving opportunity? Funny you should ask that question, because we are going into jurisdiction meetings, and there will be some challenges there. As far as as much as on a yearly basis, not as much. Going into a assembly year, we definitely see a lot of competition among the challenges, among the conferences for mission giving. Usually among the jurisdiction years, we see that challenge happening at jurisdiction levels. And unfortunately with 2020 being what it was, but at the time, planning into 2020, the jurisdictions were actually competing with one another about mission giving. So it's not unheard of. It's not something that I wouldn't encourage. You know, when I think of places where I think it would be really impactful, you know, Ohio still has two conferences. I could see East Ohio and West Ohio very much competing. Minnesota and the Dakotas, they share a bishop. I could see that happening, but there's still, you know, there's still two conferences. I could see that happening. I would love to see that happening. It's got to come from the conference, from one conference to another. It has to be led by you all. It can't be led by staff, in my opinion, to see it to its true importance, to its true meaning, to what it would mean to each conference. It would have to come from the district level, the conference level, in order for it to make a challenge really happen. But I think that, you know, as we get closer to each other conference wise, you know, I'm encouraged seeing, you know, I'm encouraged by seeing presidents communicating more and more with one another, especially through, you know, Sally's leadership and Harriet's before hers, of having those quarterly conversations with presidents. You know, I think now is one of those times when presidents really can get to know each other, more so than being siloed in their own conference. And so now is the time for those challenges to really happen, especially if you feel a kindred spirit with another conference. And I bring up Ohio only because I know that they are, in a lot of ways, they're very different, but in a lot of ways, they're very similar. And I think it would depend on that kindred spirit between the two presidents. But I will tell you, if there's any way I can support it, I would be happy to do so. I would encourage it, you know, if there were two presidents that came and said, we want to do this, I would encourage you to reach out to myself and Christy Campos, and I'll put our names in the chat. And I would say Christy Campos would be the other one, because you can't have just one staff person helping. You'd have to have two staff people so that you know, there's not any rigging or bias. But I think of the fundraising department, we would be the two who would find ways to support each conference to healthily challenge one another to such an event. We do, you know, the jurisdictions do talk about challenging their conferences in friendly competition for different events. So that is a possibility. And again, You do not have to ask for permission. You don't have to ask for forgiveness. You really just need to ask for help, and we'll support it. But again, I do believe it would have to be run by the two conferences. It can't be run by staff. I give you myself and Christy as staff who could support, but it would have to be run by the conferences. But I do see potential. And similarly, districts within your district. If two districts wanted to do such a thing, or if you wanted to do it among the districts, you know, we have a 155-year history. There's probably a name from your conference that would resonate with everyone as far as her historical importance. So create an award for the district that raises the most money for mission giving, or meets their pledge, or is the closest to meeting their pledge, or is the number, the percent above their pledge, and create an award every year for this historical name woman that would resonate with people. Yes, Christy came to your meeting. I knew that. And she'll be at Southeast jurisdiction as well. So I'll tell her that I gave up her name, but we're welcome to keep that a surprise as well. She'll love me for it. But when you think about, if competition is something that is driving, that drives mission giving, or that drives fundraising in general, what can make it meaningful? What can make it healthy and supported by all? Did a dear member pass away recently, and you want to raise money in her honor, and it becomes an award, and for the next 10 years, it's the Susie Stotts Award for giving, for mission giving. And it's based on what a district does. I have purposely not included the hardship of disaffiliation and decreased membership in this conversation. I know that that's a reality, but I also know that 155 years ago, 2 women found out that there was a problem in India and invited 6 other women to talk about it. And within 2 years, had 800 women raising funds to send a female doctor and a female teacher to India. So I know our numbers are not what they used to be. I know we're not as young as we used to be. But I also know that we are an amazing group of women who want to do things. There's a reason we keep action in our logo, in everything that we do. It's faith, hope, and love in action, because we are definitely active women, and we believe that actions make a difference. Mission giving makes the seemingly impossible possible. I couldn't say it better. Friends, I know you have questions. Please feel free to put them in. I'm going to take a drink of water because I've just talked for an hour, and nobody needs to hear me talk that much. So please ask questions in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. And I hope that the quiet, the non-questions means I've given you so much to think about that you'll come back and ask questions. Yes, this is being recorded, Marion. You're totally good. We're recording this. It will be available. Marion, I'm gonna let Susan and Donna answer that question. They'll let everyone know where to find this once they post it somewhere.
Marion, the recording will be online at our website. So give us just a little bit to get it up and going. And when we do, we'll let you know, okay?
I couldn't have given the website. I apologize. Thank you. There is a lot to see on United Women in Faith's website, which is uwfaith.org. And the opportunity that's available on the website is to make it personal for you. There is a membership portal that you can log into and find things that are specific to members. Will there be fundraising or competition at Southeast Jurisdiction? Yes, there will. If I'm not mistaken, you are going to be asked to bring dollar bills because there is a way to fundraise, a competition based on the code on dollar bills. So I think Sue is the president, and there will be more information coming out shortly because that is coming up quickly. J bills for Jesus and L for Lord. Okay, Donna, you knew it. So there is a competition for fundraising at Southeast Jurisdiction. There's also opportunities to give at Southeast Jurisdiction event. There will be an opportunity for not only the Legacy Fund, but also for mission giving. Are we able to set up an online auto withdrawal for mission giving? On the national level, yes. If you wanted to make a gift to a gift on the national website, you can, and it can be an automatic withdrawal if you wanted to give every month or something like that. As far as on the conference, that's a Tim question. Okay. Or that's a Tim answer. So that will be a question that will come out of the conference level. And on that similar note, for the district and the local units, I will say too, if for your treasurers, start having that conversation with your treasurers. Especially on the local level, if women want to either write a check once a month for their pledge, what could that look like? And if you don't have the tech capability yet, start having those conversations, because that technology does exist. United Women in Faith can help with that. Just so you know. Day of giving for the Legacy Endowment Fund is March 23rd, which is 3 days away, 3 days away. And it is 155 years of celebrating United Women in Faith. And it is amazing opportunity. We will have live break-ins to Facebook to celebrate where we are throughout the day. I get to ring the bell at 8 a.m. Eastern time saying, welcome to the Day of Giving. There may or may not be cake for breakfast that day because we are having a birthday party, and we're celebrating it as a birthday party this year as we move faithfully forward in our Day of Giving and in our giving to the endowment fund. So it is present. We hope that you all will be participating in Day of Giving in some capacity. You know, $5 does make a difference. Similarly, if you are having an event, let us know. We'll share it on Facebook and we'll put it out there and promote it, because a lot of units and districts are not having events. So we want to make sure that the ones that are being celebrated. We appreciate. Oh, well, Donna, my pleasure. It has been my honor. And again, I've shared a ton of information. I'm going to put my email in the chat again, just so that it stays on everyone's top of mind. You're welcome to email me with questions, with answers. I love funny stories, but I love you all. And I love this organization. I'm honored to be a part of it, as well as get to talk with all of you. And I'm honored that you came tonight and that you are a part of all this. So please feel free to ask questions. And again, the biggest takeaway that I would encourage are three things. I would encourage you to do the pledge on the local level. And I say that because it connects all of us. It is something that makes United Women in Faith different than other women's organizations. It keeps us spiritually grounded because our pledge is grounded in spiritual faith and connection. So I would encourage the pledge to all your local units. I was doing a training for a conference, and one woman said, well, we've never done individual gifts, individual pledge. We only do our local unit pledge. And that's a missed opportunity. So again, something to think about, something to educate about. I would encourage that as a conference, you get as close to the number that you pledged as possible to your conference pledge. I would love to see all of our conferences meet their pledges to 100%, but I'm a realist in some ways, and I'm aiming for 96%. We average around 93% of conferences meeting their pledge. So I'd like to see us meet it by 96% this year. I'd love to see us meet it at 100%. But it's easy for me to say that because I'm not boots on the ground. Our fundraising happens at our local and our district and our conference level. And so I encourage you to meet the pledge. And my third takeaway would be find, create, build fundraisers that you're passionate about, that you care about, because that's huge. We're given such limited time together that I think we should do things that we care about. And I think we should do things that we're passionate about. And you can do fundraising and passions. They do go together. And congratulations on meeting your pledge in 2023. That is huge. I know in talking with Susan and Donna that you've changed your pledge a little bit this year. Again, I encourage you, meet your pledge. That is a huge thing. To treasurers and to education and interpretation coordinators, talk about it. Talk about the money. Share where the money goes. Reach out to those people that you read about in the prayer calendar or the daily prayer guide. And that is the impact. That is sharing the impact of women's individual gifts to the organization. You know, we can utilize, again, we just had the March issue, or January, February, March, January, February issue of Response that has, you know, the maps of the world of where your money goes. If you see something in Response and you want to learn more, that's a great, there's contact information for people that are writing those articles in Response. Reach out to them, invite them to a local unit, invite them to a district meeting, invite them to speak. They'll say yes if they can. Because that's the connection. That's what makes it possible. So please, by all means, utilize those names and resources in Response. If you see a cool story in Response and you want to learn more, reach out to that person. You know, we build these man-made fake walls. You know, there's really not a wall between Tennessee and Florida. Well, Tennessee and Florida don't really match, but there's not lines between the states. You can cross them. You know, I can cross from Indiana and drive into Tennessee, and we can cross these barriers without, you know, too much trouble and strife. So break down those barriers. Don't feel like just because someone's in a different conference, you can't talk to them, or because someone's on a different continent that you can't reach out to them. It may take 2 or 3 days for them to read their email, but they will read it. If you want to learn more about what the Deaconess program is doing in the Philippines, by all means, reach out. It might take a day or two to figure out timing, but they will do it. They will come to a local unit meeting even. So please know that those boundaries don't really exist for United Women in Faith. They really don't. We as an organization do not have limits of space and time like other organizations do. Because we're a world organization and we impact the world. Okay, I'm done. I've said enough. I will close with this. Blessings and prayers surround you. The word of God is in you. You are empowered to be the hands and feet of God today, not after some training, not after, you know, you reach 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70. You are empowered today to be the hands and feet of God. And this world needs you, and United Women in Faith needs you. So thank you for all that you do. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Shannon. That was just absolutely wonderful. That was just a brief preview of what we E&I folks got to hear from Shannon about a month ago. I am never, ever disappointed in the information that comes from you. And I just appreciate you so much. And thank you for being with us tonight. And with that, we have, for those who are so minded, we have a QR code that Tim's going to put up on the screen. If you've never used these, they're very easy to use. You just take your phone, go to your camera app, hold it over that QR code like you're going to make a picture, but don't make a picture. And it will bring up that a little website that you can click on, and then just follow the directions, and you too can give online. I promise it's not hard to do. And we're just 4 days away from our national giving event, but in Holston, we'll be glad to take your money anytime. So please be generous, and thank you for attending tonight. I pray that God will bless you in your work, and if you ever need help, as you can see tonight, there is lots of people to help us. So reach out to me or Donna or Shannon, and we will be glad to get you the assistance that you need. And we want to say a big thank you to Tim Jones tonight for being our technical person. I don't know what we'd do without Tim Jones. We are just so blessed to have him. And thank you to Donna Mosby for helping organize and implement this. And thank you for all of you who attended tonight. And may God bless you and keep you and go with you throughout this week. Be safe and go in peace. God bless you.